Hey guys,
Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark.
how's everybody's week? Yeah? Just fine? No? You're unaware of how you were? Okay. Go to John chapter 11. So I was watching this nature documentary because I'm a weirdo. And I like documentaries and I like animals.
Well, I like animals.
So I watch nature documentaries every once in a while. And they're talking about this moth that cocoons itself in the Arctic for 7 years. And it literally freezes solid over those 7 years during the winter, and then it comes out alive. Which I think is really cool. And it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today. What, Jackie?
Can you cocoon for 7 years and then die?
Can I do what?
Cocoon for 7 years
No.
and die.
Wait. Is it John 11?
John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Yeah, I know, but is it?
Yes, John. Okay. I need somebody who wants to read. Wow. Arthur, would you like to read for us?
Yeah.
You always want to read for me. Can you read 14 through 16?
Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas called the twins, said to his fellow disciples, let us go, that we may find.
Okay, so what's just happened here is Jesus was teaching in a place called Judea, which is basically a county of Israel. Does that make sense? It's just part of the nation that's been divided up. And he kind of gets chased out because the people there are actually wanting to kill him. While he's in Judea, he's generally living with these people, Mary and Martha and Lazarus, which most of us know the story of Mary like pouring, or Martha's cooking in the kitchen and Mary's sitting on her feet. Martha yells at her. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay. Same people. So Jesus spent a lot of time with these people. These are probably close family, friends with Jesus, and some of the people who probably helped him a lot because they put up the 12 disciples and whoever else was with him while he was in this area. And Jesus finds out that Lazarus is really, really sick and is probably going to die. And Jesus doesn't do anything about it. He just stays out. And then eventually Jesus goes, hey, he's dead. Now I'm going to go back to Judea. Oh, by the way, yeah, he's totally dead. And then his disciples go, great, we're going to die when we go there. Not very exciting of a trip, right? At best, we get to go to a funeral. At worst, we die. Right? That's sort of what they're looking at. Kind of a bummer of a trip. What?
Why is there a camera?
Because I watch game tape. That's my analogy. So you play sports, you play the game, you watch the tape.
No, you don't.
I did. So I preach, I watch the tape and try to get better.
I thought it was behavioral issues.
For you, Jackie, it is behavioral issues. It's just so your parents can know what you do. Stop it. All right, so that's where we are. That sort of sets up this passage. I need somebody else to read for me. Yes, could you read 17 through 27, that paragraph?
Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off. Many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So Mary heard that Jesus was coming. She went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he died, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world.
Great, thank you. I think Martha is a very relatable character for most of you guys. And actually, when I planned on teaching this, I was planning on talking about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and we're going to spend most of our time talking about Martha because I think she's the most relatable character for a lot of you people. So how long has Lazarus been dead? Let's see if anybody's paying attention. How long?
4 days. 4 days.
At least 4 days, because he's been in the tomb 4 days. Dude's been dead for a while. Okay, Jesus is about 2 miles out when Martha comes running up to him. She finds out that Jesus is coming, and she comes running up to him, which is a weird thing for her to do. Because the stories we see of her before that is she is always the caretaker for the people at her house. She's always making sure that she's being hospitable. She's always doing what's socially correct. And yet, she leaves all the people at her house, because it talks about the whole region's coming to see her, and she goes and sees Christ. It's very out of character. People do things out of character because they are very upset. She's not really a happy person right now. I think she's very emotional. There's a line where she comes up to him and goes, Martha says, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. And I don't know what her tone was, and that's part of the frustration I have, because there's 2 options. It's, Lord, if you hadn't been here, or if you had been here, he wouldn't have died, or it's her about to cry. You know, that emotional, I'm breaking down, Lord, why did you let this happen? And this is a common thing in our lives. This is a common thing where something bad happens to us, and we can turn into Martha, and we get angry at God. We go, why did you let this bad thing happen to my friend? Why did my grandparents have to die? Why did my best friend have to get hurt? I've been there. My best friend got kicked out of his house when he was 17, and I was probably 15. He was living in high school, and he got thrown out of his house. I remember yelling at God going, why? Why did it have to happen? Why can't he get along with his dad? Why is his dad being so hard on him? It's a very common thing. We actually see it a lot in the Psalms, where you'll have people who are very emotional talking to God. Like Psalm 94 starts out with, O God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up and judge the earth. Repay the proud what they deserve. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exalt? They pour out their arrogant words. All evildoers boast. They crush your people, O Lord. They afflict your heritage. They kill the widow and the sojourner, murder the fatherless. And you have the psalmist, and he's going, God, how long are you going to watch people do evil things? How long are we going to watch people beat up widows and orphans and kill them? He's going, how long are you going to let your chosen people get picked on? How long, O Lord? And he goes through this psalm, and we don't have a whole lot of time to spend there, but he keeps going through this psalm and asks the same question. And you can see the anger. And it's not an uncommon thing in some of the Psalms where guys are going, God, what? What gives? Aren't we supposed to be your chosen people? Doesn't it give us some sort of benefit? Because I'm sick and tired of getting picked on by whoever. I'm sick and tired of getting mistreated by whoever. And eventually what I love about Psalm 94 is it ends and he's kind of going, I know you're going to do this. I know you're going to come back. I know you're going to judge these people, but sometimes I wish I saw it now. And it's that anger and that vengeance. And I see Martha, and she's so upset. And she's so emotional. And that's actually a pretty natural thing with death. I told you guys my wife's, we're going to call her grandma, died. Her family's not a family tree, it's a family bush. So everybody's been married and divorced like 3 or 4 times, so there are weird family dynamics there. But her grandma died about 3 weeks ago, and there are different reactions. You had a lady who was basically Martha, who's just upset. She got angry, she got frustrated, she started blaming people for things. And then you have some other people who went, the lady knows the Lord. There's some comfort in that. And death should be scary if you don't know the Lord. Death should be terrifying. But if you do know the Lord, it takes all the fear out of it. If you know that you're saved, what's to be scared of? And that's when my wife and I came to this conclusion, because her grandma was this lady who had known the Lord and worked hard to spread the gospel and worked in her church and volunteered and done all these things and had totally lived for the Lord for a long time. And we went, yeah, it's sad she died, but okay, it's better now. And it's sort of the difference between a lot of us in a lot of the world. But there's another thing about Martha that I think is really interesting and really applicable to you guys. If we look toward the end of there, Jesus asks her a question. He goes, or makes a statement that's sort of a, don't you know this statement? I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though they die, they shall live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. He goes, do you believe this? And she answers yes, right? If you look at the passage at the very end of that paragraph in verse 27, she goes, yes, Lord. But she misses the point. She has all the Bible knowledge. She has all the scripture teachings. She's been grown up in the church, and she goes, I'm going to give you the pat answer I know is right. Yes, someday my brother will be in heaven and be risen again. That's kind of what she says. And yet, she misses what Christ is actually saying. Because he's going, I'm the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the light. And she's going, well, I know that someday he's going to raise. I just know that someday he's going to be saved. I know that someday he's going to be in heaven and that it's okay, but it still hurts. And yet I feel like that's a lot of you guys who have grown up in the church and know how to answer the basic questions. And yet she misses the obvious thing that he's saying. You're going, well, I know what the answer is. Jesus, right? You guys get into small groups and we start talking and you guys go, well, it's Jesus, right? Well, sure. Well, let's dig a little deeper and let's actually apply this. Because, I'm sorry, it was verse 24, not verse 27. She goes, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus is going, well, that's right. That's not what I'm actually talking about. He's going, I'm actually talking about, I'm going to raise him. And sometimes when we've grown up in the church, we miss what Christ is saying because we think we know all the answers. And I feel like that's pretty relatable to you guys because a lot of you guys struggle with this idea of, I know what to say to get through. A lot of you guys have been here so long and have come every Sunday since you can remember, and you know the answers to get through. Some of you are homeschooled and do Bible stuff at home, and you guys really know the answers, right? And yet she gets this obvious question and misses it. And I think sometimes we can become arrogant like Martha and think we know all the answers. I know I can get there. All right, I want to keep going. So, I need somebody to read 24 through 26. Who had their hand up? Did you read already?
Yeah, I did. We did. No, I did.
You did. Just read.
Okay. We're reading 24 through...
No, I'm
What, isn't it 28?
28. Yes, thank you. 28, 44.
Okay.
You can do it?
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when she said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher is here. The teacher is here, and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she arose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus, when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved. In his spirit, greatly troubled, and he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. And so the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Look, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, Did I not tell you that if you believe, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me. But I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to him, Unbind him and let him go.
Thank you, Arthur. That was a lot to read. I appreciate you doing that.
John Cena, I appreciate it.
You do? You appreciate that you read? I think that there's a lot in this, and it can be overwhelming. Well, let's break it down to a couple of different things. Mary has the exact same question. Lord, why did you let this happen? Yet her reaction's a little different, because she doesn't go to Christ. She holds back. She stays away. And sometimes when really difficult things happen in our lives, when people die, people get hurt, when you lose friends, that's our reaction, is to stay away from God. Take a step back and see if he'll come to you. It's kind of interesting because she stays back from when her sister initially leaves, and then she eventually gets her head right. And goes and sees him. But also, I want to look at the very end of the verse 37, talks about the Jews are going, well, if he could heal the blind, why couldn't he heal a dead man or a sick man? Aren't these supposed to be his friends? These are sort of the same questions people give us today. If there's a God, why couldn't he get rid of all human suffering? If there's a God, why are there orphans dying? If there's a God, why are people starving? And yet, Christ talks about this in the next paragraph. See, it has this idea. He goes, guys, I came here. Let me just a sec, sorry. Okay, verse 42. I knew that you were always here, but I said on this account of the people standing around that they may believe that you sent me. Christ is talking about joining. Guys, the reason that I wasn't here is for your glory. Sometimes bad things pull us to Christ. Sometimes difficult times are bring us closer to God. It doesn't always make sense in the moment, but sometimes the most hard things in our lives what brings us closer. So what happens? Somebody sum up what just happens at the very end of this story. Anybody? No one was paying attention? Arthur read it. All right, Arthur.
Jesus healed Lazarus out of the tomb.
Okay. So, Martha goes with Jesus to the tomb. The crowd follows, right? Martha goes, I don't know if I really want to roll back this rock because it's been 4 days and it's going to be gnarly, right? Dead things start to smell pretty quick, and especially in a warm climate. And don't think of a tomb like we think of today where they put them in a box and put them underground. They put them in a cave and then put a big rock in front of the hole in the cave. And so Martha's going, I don't know if I want to believe you to this point where I might get really embarrassed in front of my community. I might make a complete fool out of myself because if I roll back this rock and he smells, that's pretty humiliating. What if I'm proved wrong? And so often in our lives, this is a point where Christ will have us do something, and we have to step out and be like Martha, to actual faith. Are you willing to get past the, yes, I know the Bible answer, but actually step out and do something in faith? Because if you roll back that rock, and Lazarus is still dead and rotting away, it looks really, really bad. Right?
Yeah.
Like really, really embarrassing. Really, really kind of a scary thing to do. Yet she's willing to do it. She's willing to step out and go, all right, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to struggle with this, but I'm going to trust God. And that's why I think she's so relatable to most of us. Because most of us have this head knowledge of the Bible. Or if we don't, we know some of the answers. But it's when you actually have to step out for your faith, when you actually have to do something that's different than what your friends are doing. You go to 7-Eleven and somebody steals a bag of M&Ms. I was there and my friends were stealing, they're going to a billion-dollar company, they don't notice. And yet, you have to be the one going, no guys, you can't do that. How about this one? Yeah, I don't know if I want to sit down. How about when you're out with your friends, and some girl's talking to you for the guys, or some guys talking to you for the girls, and you're going, wow, they're cute. Wow, they're funny. Wow, they're fun to be around. And they're going, why don't you date her? And you're going, well, I could. You could. But are you going to step out and be different? Are you going to set yourself aside to make you look different to your friends? I love that. No. Cute girl talk to me? No way. I'm not saying yes. I like honest answers. There's so many times in our life that you have to step out and do something different. Whether it be how you talk, how you act, what you do. Heck, if you guys show up here on a Wednesday night and people come ask and go, why couldn't you hang out Wednesday? Well, I was at church. Why were you at church? Well,
Because I wanted to be, but I forced me to come.
see, that's your opportunity to share. Well, I believe that there's a God. And then you can start the conversation. But so often in our lives, as young men and young women of the church, we need to be different. And we have to do things that are different. And I think that's part of the lesson from Martha, is that it's so hard to step out in your faith. So there's one other character we're going to talk about real quickly. Lazarus. The dead dude. We're going to talk about the dead dude.
Oh, he was alive.
He's not
dead.
dead.
He's now alive.
No.
He's dead.
He's now dead.
So, dead dude. Surprisingly, there's a lesson from the dead guy.
Don't do drugs.
Right? And the application is pretty simple. If you believe in God, if you believe that you are a sinner that has been forgiven by Christ, because Christ died and rose again 3 days later, He died for you specifically. He forgave your sins, and now you're right with God. You're like Lazarus, because you were dead and now you're alive. You were at some point in your life dead. We're all born dead. Sounds a little weird, but we're all born dead.
I am dead for vampire.
You're a vampire? But so much of Lazarus' story is our story too. Because if you were a believer, you were once dead. But do you think Lazarus never stopped telling that story of like, people came up to him and went, Lazarus, dude, I thought you were really sick. He went, yeah, I was really sick. I died for 4 days. Pretty cool story. Yet it's still our story. You're dead longer. Most of you were dead for years. And now you're alive. Maybe some of you are still dead. Maybe some of you are like Lazarus, thinking you're okay, but you're probably dead. What?
When Lazarus first came out of the tomb, what did he do? Ask what day it was or praise Jesus?
Ooh, that's a good question. It doesn't say.
Well, that's why I asked you.
Well, how much does it know? It doesn't say.
Weren't you alive then?
My guess is, I'm going to guess this. I'm 29. Calm down. So at the very end, Jesus says, unbind him and let him go. My guess is Lazarus was wrapped around about somehow, like tied up, like with cloth or something, think kind of mummy-ish. My guess is he didn't say much. Besides, oh, maybe now I can breathe that they took off the wrapping or something, or that feels better. I don't know what he actually said, but that's just me guessing. But so much of our lives, we can be Lazarus. And so many of our friends are Lazarus who's still dead. So many people in our lives are Lazarus, and they're dead, and they're bound together, and we need Christ to save them. That's what Mary and Martha wanted, right?
Yes.
Sort of. They didn't want the hurt. They didn't want the initial pain. But yet the pain brought so much more to the story. The suffering of Mary and Martha and the people in the community brought more people to know Christ because they saw this great thing. More people believed because Lazarus was actually dead. When Christ talks about there's a reason I stayed back, in the beginning of the chapter talks about people are going, hey, you got to go save Lazarus. And he's going, no, wait. And he goes, now that he's dead, I'll go. There's a reason for that. Sometimes suffering brings people to the Lord. Sometimes hardships are the best way for us to witness. Because if you've gone through a hardship and I've gone through the hardship too, we can relate and we can talk about it. You can bring Christ into the picture. I think that's some of the main points of this story. All right, let me pray, and we will let you guys go. You're a little squirrely.